Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Good. 1 second. Right.
How's it going?
It's going good. I totally understand life happens, but like the sessions won't be delayed like every time, right?
Oh yeah, no, no,
I'm
no.
I'm sure you just have a lot of students. I was just wondering. I
Yeah,
was just wondering.
yeah. I just had, yeah, um, yeah. I'll try not to definitely be like that. It's just that I had a student that
Yeah.
before, before you that it just ran a little bit over because
hmm
your test is soon. But, but yeah, I'll try not to do that again.
I didn't mean that to be passive aggressive, I swear. Like I literally was just
Uh-huh.
just saying because today the whole day I'm studying, but like other days I might be like,
Totally, totally. Yeah.
things might be back to back. Okay, cool. So today, yeah, I wanted to go over cars.
Yep.
Um, how do you think is the best way to go about this? I was thinking I have like a passage I want to go over, or
Uh-huh. Is
do you
that
have a?
is that
Mhm.
where's the passage from?
So it's from Jack Weston. There were two passages actually
Mhm.
that I wanted to go over, but like in terms of time, you think the hour session will probably be like one passage, right?
Yeah, we could do that. I was wondering if there were any passages from like AMC cars that you have.
Okay, so I did AMC cars yesterday. I did two. Um, it's so weird. It's so weird how this works because I did two passages and I got a 9 out of 10. I
Okay.
got a 90% and it was my first time doing AMC passages. Today I do three Jack Weston passages. I get a 52%.
Mm-hmm.
It's so volatile. It's crazy how like
Yeah,
cars works. So for now I don't have an AMC passage.
got it, got it. Yeah, no, yeah, the Jack Weston cars will definitely be more difficult, so that would make sense. Um, but yeah, okay, which Jack Weston passage was it?
Well,
Yeah,
one of them was from like just randomly. I randomly like generate a question set
yeah,
and then I get it. And then the others like from one of their practice. It was from the blueprint exam I took that you told me to do.
okay.
Um, I don't even know which one I'd rather go over to be honest.
Uh-huh.
Um, what do you suggest? The one I got more wrong on, I guess. It's just like one of them I got more wrong on, but the other there's like more types of questions. Like there's a Roman numeral question, and so I just want to see how you go about that.
Yeah, yeah. Can you link me the passage? I'm
Oh yeah.
gonna take a look at something.
Okay, sure. Um, 1 second. Well, one of them is in this, and the other one I could send you the question ID.
Um,
Yeah.
oh, I was gonna look for because with Jack Weston,
Mm-hmm.
I usually look at like passages where the answers are or the questions are like rated moderate or hard. So I was gonna try to do that with a passage that you sent me, but I can't for the this one because it's just like it's like the Los Angeles test. Um, so was there another one that wasn't from this specific test, but was for let's say
Yes. So
or
the one.
sorry, I could actually just have just kind of like put in. Okay, so you know what? I can actually see now. Let me just see one sec.
Okay. So
So
in the other.
sorry.
Yeah.
So the one that you just sent me, I'm looking at it, and I don't. Oh wait, I think this might be a glitch. It's telling me difficulty hard for every single. Does that show? Is that what it looks like for you as well?
Let me go check right now. Um,
Well, I guess regardless, which yep.
The other passage I sent, like in that question set,
Oh
um,
yeah.
that one, there's four hard and two easy. I remember it.
Yeah. So is that second link that you sent? That's the let's see if I can even put in that.
And by the way, yes, everything just show up as hard, like
Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Um, but yeah, usually that's what I oh, and it doesn't wait, you know what? We could still actually figure something out because like the questions that are hard should be the ones where there's a larger percentage. Like I'm just looking at okay, so like the first passage, question one, I see like 67% chose B, 23% chose C, whereas question two, 84% chose B. So question two is probably like should be ranked like easy or something.
Yeah.
Another way of being able to tell. And oh, and then I see the Zeno, the one with Zeno. Is that the
Yep.
um let's see, whoops. All right, so yeah, the second one that you sent me actually gives me like different difficulty
Hmm.
stuff. And the first one in that seems to have a good amount of hard questions. Two, three hard, four hard, two
Hmm. Too
easy.
easy, right?
So, all right, is that the one you want to go over? The Zeno one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, why don't you open it up and share your screen and I can go over how to approach Car's question.
Hmm. And also, one more thing I wanted to ask you about. Um, do you do you think it's like mandatory or like should I do all the AMC stuff before like anything else? Because I was thinking about saving at least like the science stuff for like the end, as opposed to just doing it all in the beginning.
So, so like the relevant AMC stuff, I think we talked about last time would be at least for the sciences, just that section bank, but not the science question packs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, so that means the only AMC material the to do other than the full lengths and car stuff would be just that section bank. But I think that that's something that you can do. I mean, like, yeah, I would say that's something that you, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily something to leave at the very end because I think the way that we set everything up was that you're going to be taking lots of practice tests, and that's going to be the bulk of what you do. So, uh, so yeah, I don't think the section bank is going to be something that we really want to just like save for the end. I think we're just going to get it done. And then you'll move on to the blueprint or Altius full length and then the AMC full lengths. So I think it's better,
Okay.
yeah, to do them before because where what the point with the where you want to be at will be someplace where you just are used to doing lots of full lengths. So yeah, I would disagree with I guess people who would say to save it for the end. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna share my screen.
Mhm.
You able to see it?
Yeah, and let's have you
Perfect.
scroll in such a way that let's see if we can have the whole passage visible.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, that works. I mean, if that's too small, you know, the previous zoom could probably work. We just have to scroll a little bit. But
It's no, this is fine, honestly.
okay. Because last time
Just
I think like when I looked at that video, by the way, I was like, you know, it was kind of hard to see. So like, I think in that one, big issue was just like it was hard to see. But hopefully, like it helps if you like had that video to go over.
Yeah, no, for sure. Also, yeah, I did want to say before anything, like I'm not gonna ask you to send me the video recordings every single time because I know you have so much on your like plate too and stuff. But like this one, this cars one, if you can also send
Yeah,
it like
yeah,
right
yeah,
after,
yeah.
because cars, this session is gonna be really important. I feel like.
I could definitely do that.
Perfect.
So what we're doing here, okay, so cars, what we're looking for are arguments, also known as claims, assertions, ideas, concepts, theories, hypotheses, etc. So we're going to be looking for arguments. We're going to look for who's making which argument and what support, if any, an argument has. And I'm going to highlight stuff in different colors. And I know you can't do that on the test, but it's just going to be for instruction purposes. I'm going to use green to highlight arguments. I'm going to use orange for support, like if there's evidence. And then there's contrast words. And that's something like but, although, however, things like that. But only when they're the beginning of a sentence. And that's going to be, I'm going to highlight that in pink because that's usually going to give you a clue about what the author believes. And also, yeah, I'm gonna have you read out loud slowly, and I want you to, after each like sentence, to tell me what that sentence is saying in your own words. That's another big part of it. Um, and that's what we're gonna do. So, what most people do for cars is they zoom through the passage, they zoom through the question stem, and then they look at the choices and they look at the passage frantically and they play mix and match. That's what you don't want to do because that will lead you to the trap answer choice, which will often have the same words being used, but that's why putting things in your own words is going to be so important. And yeah, the rest I guess I can go over as we see. But yep, you can start off.
Okay. Proclus claims that there were 40 arguments in the original treatise of Zeno of Elea, all with the same purpose.
Okay. What are we saying there?
Um, that there's some sort of treaty and or treatise. I don't know if it's the same thing, honestly, but there's this person, Proclus, and
Okay.
he's saying that all 40 of the arguments that they're all basically have the same like point, like
Good.
same idea.
So someone named Proclus said that uh or claims that there were 40 arguments in this original treatise by Zeno and that they all have the same purpose, right? So that's an argument right away. And usually when I see an argument, I'm thinking in my head as if I'm speaking to the author, I'm thinking, what do you mean by that? And then the author should respond by elaborating. So I'm asking, okay, what do you mean by that? And so we'll see what they probably mean. So, yep, you can continue.
Okay. Zeno wanted to defend Parmenides' thesis that all things are actually united, that they make up just one thing.
Okay.
So, um, Zeno
Hmm.
is kind of siding with Parmenides' idea that all things are that everything just makes up one thing, I guess.
Hmm.
Oh wait, I didn't even finish it. By demonstrating the absurdities that arise from the assumption that many different things exist. Yeah, so he's saying that it's wrong to, or maybe not that it's wrong, but that it's absurd to assume that many different things exist. So
Hmm.
everything is united. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, what has come down to us are reports of a number of arguments which, by and large, pursue this aim. Um, okay. So, okay, so it's like connecting to the fact that a lot of people argue that many different things exist.
Okay.
Um, they do not necessarily pursue this aim directly. Okay, so they're not directly saying that that different things exist, but wait, I had to finish sentence, sorry. They do not necessarily pursue this aim directly, but if Parmenides' belief about the unity of all things outraged common sense, then Zeno's paradoxes constitute an assault on common sense. Okay, so the reports, they don't pursue the aim that different things exist directly. But if Parmenides' like thesis um
What are you thinking?
yeah. Well here I guess it's
So what's the aim here? Pursue this aim.
pursue the aim that well the aim they're talking about is how people say that many different things exist.
All right. Is it just that, or is it combining that with something else?
Well, it's also connecting to the idea like that people are arguing against the fact that many different things exist and that they're actually united.
Good.
What I am, yeah,
Yeah. So I would,
what I,
yeah.
you know, I'm just confused about like the second half of the last sentence because I mean, I guess they're talking about like Zeno wanted to defend Parmenides, but then it also kind of divides like the idea between like the intent of Parmenides' belief and then or like the effect, I guess.
Yeah. So I think they're connected, right? If you believe that everything is essentially united or one, then you don't believe that different things exist. So the aim, I think, is not just that it's absurd to believe that different things exist, but also that it makes more sense to say that everything makes up one thing. So I think that aim includes both. And then we're saying that, it's not necessarily doing it directly, but if this Parmenides guy believed about the unity, or his belief about the unity of all things, if that outraged common sense, meaning, goes against common sense, meaning Parmenides' belief about the unity, then Zeno's paradoxes are like even worse, or like is doing even worse to common sense, right? Like not just outraging common sense, but literally like assaulting common sense,
Hmm.
right? So now what we're going to do is make something called a map, which is going to be us jotting down like the supported arguments in each paragraph. So for this paragraph, if we kind of take it from the top, we're saying that Proclus says, 40 arguments in Zeno of the same purpose. And Zeno defended Parmenides' belief that all things are united by saying that different things exist, it would be absurd, and that Parmenides outraged, or I'll say Parmenides plus Zeno, their beliefs, or paradoxes go against common sense. So I wrote paragraph 1, Proclus, 40 arguments in Zeno of same purpose. Zeno meaning defending Parmenides' belief of all united, all things are united, and that if you believe in different things, that's absurd. And Parmenides and Zeno, their beliefs go against common sense.
Mhm.
So is that something that you can take away from that first paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this map, it's not something I'd be doing on the actual exam, right? It's more so right now, just to
Yeah,
understand.
it's like doing it to practice. Like you'll see,
Mhm.
like as we go forward, like I'm gonna do a lot of things. Like one of the things
Mhm.
I do is block the passage out because you don't want to reread. You don't want to reread the passage. And if you jot some things down, you at least have something that you can look back on instead of looking back at the passage, and it helps you organize your thoughts. But with enough practice, it'll be that such that you organize your thoughts as you write down the map, but you'll get to the point where you're organizing your thoughts, and like by the time you start to write stuff down, it'll already be organized in your head. So uh so yeah, like most things, it's gonna be like, slow is smooth, smooth is fast kind of thing.
Okay. Um, the most famous are the arguments against the possibility of motion.
Okay.
Um, okay, so he's saying, um,
It's the new idea or a same idea.
new idea.
Good. And
Um,
yeah.
and it's basically, it's probably gonna either like
Mhm.
support or go against what, like support. It's gonna be supporting evidence, I guess, for the main argument. Like Parmenides and Zeno are against common sense, or not against. I'm saying that the things are united.
Yeah.
Um,
So we're saying, it's a new idea or new argument because we're saying that, you know, the most famous of these previously mentioned like beliefs or arguments about the united thing, uh most famous ones are against the possibility of motion. um and so I'm thinking, okay, what do you mean by that? And then we'll likely see the author elaborate. Okay.
in these, Zeno claims to show that the assumption that motion exists leads to paradoxical consequences, and so that there can be no such thing.
Okay, so what are we saying here?
Um, well, the fact that motion exists is a paradox. Motion doesn't exist.
Hmm. Yeah, so you can kind of see how the highlights that I make, I'm not highlighting entire sentences. I'm just highlighting kind of like words, and I call it caveman speech. Like if you just read the highlights, it's getting like the nouns out there, and you can kind of fill in the blanks yourself. So if you just read what I highlight, it's against motion, Zeno, no such thing. So that means that Zeno is saying that there is no such thing as motion. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Um, but these arguments are summarized by Aristotle, who goes on to refute Zeno's arguments, and so proves that motion does in fact exist.
All right. Now we have our contrast word. And whenever you see a contrast word like this, that's at the beginning of a sentence, you know, alarms should be going off in your head. Like, okay, this is going to be something important because whatever comes after the contrast word will have to be different from whatever comes before that contrast word. And typically, what's after the contrast word will give you some insight of what the author believes. I mean, it's not always going to be the case, but usually what comes after the contrast word is going to be kind of important. And so after the contrast word, what's being stated?
But these arguments are summarized by Aristotle, who goes on to refute. Yeah, so he's saying that Aristotle is going against Zeno's um argument. And he's saying that motion does exist, or Zeno saying it doesn't.
Good. So in paragraph 1, we introduced Zeno and certain things about that. And then in paragraph 2, we're talking about specifically Zeno's argument against motion. And then we have our contrast word that then says Aristotle actually refutes Zeno's arguments and proves that motion does exist. So what can we put in our map for this paragraph?
Aristotle goes against Zeno's argument, or Aristotle motion does exist. Zeno, no such thing as motion.
Yep. So I put an arrow to the above saying motion. Aristotle refutes Zeno. Motion does exist. And I put CW to mean contrast word.
Okay. Zeno has 4 arguments against the possibility of motion, known respectively as the dichotomy, the Achilles, the arrow, and the stadium.
Okay. Now, anytime a passage gives you like a numerical value of a list or something like that, like if it says there's 2 arguments or 3 arguments, or in this case 4, we want to be aware of what's the first, what's the second, what's the third, what's the fourth, right? We're saying, and again, this is a new idea, right? So Zeno has 4 arguments against motion, and they're called, the first one's called dichotomy, the second one's Achilles, the third one's arrow, and the fourth one is the stadium. And so what am I thinking when I read this? So I'm thinking, so I'm reading Zeno has 4 arguments, and these are the name of the arguments. I'm thinking, all right, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Okay.
And then we should see elaboration.
Right. And so next sentence, oh my God, the time is out. Hold on. Yeah, sometimes it's a little buggy. 1 second. Alrighty.
Oh, you could hit the pause button.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay. The dichotomy is the clearest. So yeah, they're basically elaborating. And they say that, well, I guess it also implies they're gonna be talking about the dichotomy, out of those 4 arguments, and it's the clearest out of the 4. Yeah.
Yep.
It states that in order to complete any process of motion, the moving object has to first cross half of the space on the way to its goal. It then has to cross half of that remaining space, and then half of that remaining space, and so forever. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically saying that like this kind of like infinite. Uh, like motion is not doesn't really exist because it's like infinite. Like it's like a, I guess, paradox.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so if you're trying to get to some place or whatever, if you're trying to walk from your seat to your door, you would have to cover half that distance and then half of the half distance. And, if you keep doing that, it means that, well, that I guess motion can't exist. So, so that's the dichotomy thing. And it's about, having each time. So, yep, you can go.
Hmm. Imagine, for instance, you are running a mile. I guess I'll read the next one. First you have to run a half mile, but before that you have to run a quarter mile. But before that you have to run an eighth mile, but before you have to run a 16th mile and so on forever. So it's just an example.
Yeah, and I'll make, because sometimes you might not have like empirical evidence and stuff. So I'm gonna make orange. I'm gonna make the example of running a mile in orange because it's still supporting the argument. Using this example. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Any object in motion then has to complete an infinite number of tasks in a finite amount of time. Okay. So yeah, he's like, I guess, implying that like it's like there's an infinite number of tasks because it keeps getting halved, but you have a finite amount of time, so it's a paradox, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's implying that like that's why motion does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you ran a mile in 6 minutes, you had to run an infinite number of smaller segments in those 6 minutes. Another example. Such a situation is impossible, and so Zeno claims that movement does not exist. Okay.
Okay. What can we put for this?
The dichotomy explains so it's, I mean, explains that movement does not exist, but I guess it's based on halves. And then yeah,
Yeah, I wrote
this
Zeno's
is
four arguments. Dichotomy means to cover a distance must pass half of that distance infinitely in this finite period of time, so there's no motion.
mhm. However, Aristotle proves Zeno wrong.
Oh yeah. However, contrast word, right?
Yep.
And then yeah, but then we say Aristotle proves Zeno wrong, right? So you see
Hmm.
again how the word after the contrast word gives you some insight about the author. Because our first contrast word in paragraph 2, we used to say, although Zeno claims that there's no motion, Aristotle refutes Zeno, right?
Yeah.
And in the contrast word down here, we say that again. We say after the contrast word, Aristotle refutes or proves Zeno wrong. So you see how the contrast words are very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aristotle's refutation takes two forms.
All right.
So,
And now we have two forms again. So when we have a numerical value, we want to be aware of what's the first, what's the second. Um, Previously, we had Zeno with the four arguments. And if they, I mean, they only really elaborated on one, but if they elaborated on the other three, then yeah, we would want to keep track of that. But yeah, now we're just taking the two forms thing. So we want to be we want to keep track of what's the first one, what's the second one. So, yep.
Aristotle's reputation. Oh, sorry. First, Aristotle claims that Zeno is wrong because time can be divided as easily as space.
Okay.
So basically, he's taking Zeno's argument in terms of covering space in half. So now, um,
Yep.
time is now a factor also.
Yep.
Like, if you run a mile in 6 minutes, you'll run a half mile in three, a quarter mile in a minute and a half, an eighth mile in a 45 seconds, so on.
Example, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of Zeno's defenders claim that Zeno was perfectly aware of the notion of the infinite divisibility of time, but it is hard to find any extant evidence of this. Not even when Zeno talks about the possibility of dividing something down into nothing. Okay.
What are they saying here?
Um, that Zeno might have or might have not have
Mhm.
been aware of this argument that Aristotle makes. Well, yeah, like of the time.
Mhm.
Um, not even when Zeno talks about it. Yeah, but it's hard to find any evidence of this.
Yeah.
Um,
So if we're saying that, okay, Zeno says motion's impossible because if you half the distance, you half the distance an infinite number of times, but you only have a finite amount of time. Aristotle's like, okay, well, what about dividing time the way that you're dividing space? And then we're saying that Zeno's defenders claim that Zeno was aware of that argument, but what the author is saying is that we can't really find evidence of that. Like, we can't find any evidence of Zeno being aware of that, right?
mhm.
Yep.
So I think Aristotle's criticism is fair here as far as it goes.
All right. Now we're seeing something here that's rare in cars, but it's the most potent one of the most important things to see. So it's called author's opinion. And that's when the author explicitly states their opinion. Because up to this point, we can maybe, we can infer that the author supports Aristotle and, doesn't support Zeno. But now we explicitly see the author say, I think, Aristotle's criticism is fair here. And that's like a magic bullet here. And you're
Hmm.
not going to see this all the time. It's rare,
Yeah.
but we do see it here. So, what can we put in our map for this?
Aristotle, two forms, or argument two forms, I guess. And then time can be divided as easily as space. And something about the author saying his criticism is fair.
Yeah, I put Aristotle I'll throw in CW as well. Aristotle disproves Zeno, and they're really just giving us that first reason. So,
Hmm.
and then that first reason I wrote number one, time can be divided too. And that Zeno may know this, but there's no evidence that he does, and that Aristotle is right. AO author's opinion, CW contrast word, because we also have that. Yep.
The most robust form of Aristotle's refutation of Zeno's denial of motion, though, deals with the form of Zeno's argument.
Okay. What are they saying here?
Um, I guess the best form of like Aristotle's
Mhm.
argument and deals with the form.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I guess like the best version of Aristotle's refutation of Zeno's denial of motion seems to be related to the form, which I'm thinking of as like the structure of Zeno's argument.
Mhm.
So maybe like I would say, yeah, the form. And by the way, what am I thinking when I read that?
That the author actually,
Like when I say thinking, I mean like I'm at like what would I say to the author when I read that? So it'll be, what do you mean by that?
mm,
So Aristotle's form that's most robust is involves the form of the argument, and I'm thinking, okay, what do you mean by that? And so we should see the author elaborate. Basically, whenever I see any argument, that's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm thinking, what do you mean by that?
okay.
Yep.
Aristotle says that while it might be true that an infinite series of tasks would have to be performed, were the runner to mark every successful halfway point that he reaches, the conditional form of the sentence is important.
Okay.
Um, so the conditional form of the sentence, he's saying, like, while it might be true, that like it might not be like it's not always definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so apparently the form of Zeno's argument that Aristotle wants to talk about is the conditional form of a sentence. And I'm not 100% sure what that means yet, so I'm thinking, all right, what do you mean by that?
It might be true that an infinite number of marks could be made, but it does not necessarily follow that someone always has to make that number of marks.
Okay.
Um, he's saying that a person might not always have to make an infinite number of um, like a person does not always have to cover an infinite amount of space.
So, so yeah, so I see that, okay, it might be true that an infinite number of marks could be made, but that doesn't mean that it has to be made, right?
Hmm.
Because like a conditional statement is, you know, based on like a condition, like, if you, so I guess like in this context, um, it would be like, okay, each time you go half, let's say you go half a step or whatever, and then the next step will be a quarter step. And you can mark that down, every single time you reach that halfway point. Um, you could do that, but you don't have to do that. So I think that's what they're saying about the conditional form, because that's what they're saying after. Um, but I'm still thinking, okay, what do you mean by that? So, we will probably get some more elab.
That is, when you run the mile, you naturally include running the half mile and the quarter mile as part of the run. You don't have to run those in addition and as separate tasks.
Mm-hmm. So another example with the running the mile thing, and what are they saying here about it?
Um, like the way Zeno looks at it is they're two separate things,
Yep.
but Aristotle says they're um like you know you include them together.
Yeah, right. So the Zeno argument of you have to write mark, where's half of the mile, a quarter mile, an eighth of a mile. You don't have to do that separately. You could just run the entire mile, right? So
Mhm.
for this paragraph, what can we write?
Yeah, I guess the form is argument and you count things in together, not separate.
So I wrote arrow to the above, best argument is related to form. Don't have to make marks for each half. You could just run the entire distance.
Hmm.
So now if we bring everything kind of back together, or I'll take it from the top. Paragraph 1, Proclus says there's 40 arguments for in Zeno's something that all serve the same function, and that Zeno was trying to defend Parmenides' idea of everything being one or united, and that the idea of there being different things is absurd, and that Parmenides and Zeno are saying things that go against common sense. And then paragraph 2, we hone in on a specific argument of Zeno's where he says that there's no motion. However, Aristotle refutes Zeno by saying that motion does exist. And then paragraph 3, we go into Zeno's arguments against motion, specifically the one about dichotomy, in which he states that in order to cover some distance, you must pass half of that distance first, and that if this is an infinite number of like separate tasks that must be accomplished in a finite period of time, therefore no motion exists. And then paragraph 4, we have again that Aristotle disproves Zeno by saying that time could be divided too, and that Zeno may know this, but we have no evidence that he does, and that Aristotle is right. And then paragraph 3, we're talking about what's Aristotle's best argument about against Zeno, and that it's that you don't have to make the marks. So for the stage where we are at, which is the stage at which you figure out the main idea, what you're going to do is you're going to look for any arguments that are mentioned in more than one paragraph. So what's an argument that's in more than one paragraph?
That I mean it's talking about motion, basically the whole thing, but the fact that there's no motion, the fact that there is motion, um, Aristotle is has like a the right
Mhm.
um
Yep.
refutation of Zeno.
Yeah. So another thing that you'll see in Carr's passages is that in that first paragraph, we don't know where it's going to go from there. So that's why in the map, I wrote down so many different things in the first paragraph because I did not know where this was heading. But as we go into paragraph 2, we have the Zeno being against motion and Aristotle refuting that. So we are talking about that now. And then in the rest of the passage, we talk more about Zeno saying motion doesn't exist and Aristotle saying motion does exist. So that's something that we see in paragraph 2 and in paragraph 4, right? So the main idea, which will be the repeated argument, should be something like what?
That Aristotle disproves Zeno.
Perfect.
And that yeah.
Aristotle disproves Zeno in that motion does exist. Okay. So essentially what we did was we read the passage, sentence by sentence. We're not skipping things, we're not, skimming or anything like that. We're trying to look for arguments, and sometimes, I don't want you to feel like, okay, we wasted time in the first paragraph because none of that stuff seems to be related to the rest of the stuff. But there's no way to tell when you're reading the first paragraph, right? But afterwards, then you can kind of hone in on what's being said, which is why in the later paragraphs we kind of wrote less. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the main idea. So why don't you take a screenshot of like the passage and the highlights as well as the map? And the map is this thing on the right.
Just did it. Yeah.
Got it? Okay. And now I'm going to block out the passage because you want to have such a great understanding of the main idea that you, unless they're asking you to find something extremely specific, generally speaking, you want to understand something so well that you don't necessarily need to go back. And if you needed to go back, you can go back to the map. But yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and when you do the questions, it can also help to rephrase the question to make sure you really understand what they're asking.
Okay. Aristotle's claim that time can be divided as easily as space is most likely intended to show that. Okay. Uh,
So let's go from the top, like from A.
yeah. Motion does not actually involve an infinite number of tasks. Um, I mean, he was saying it depends how you look at it. So I guess this might be two. Um,
Let's let's
yeah.
let's think
Hmm?
about this for a sec. So sometimes I block out the choices too. What could be your own answer to this?
He's basically claiming that it's not that just like space is not like covering space is not infinite. Um, how yeah, he's just using time to show that. Um, that like um time is also like being able to like you can divide time. Like just like Zeno saying how like you can have space, you can have time.
So if you could divide something, it can be infinite, right?
Yeah.
Now, Zeno said that the distance is the thing that could be divided infinitely, right?
Hmm.
But what did Zeno say about time? Did he say it was infinite time or finite time?
Finite.
Mm-hmm. And then what did Aristotle say?
That time
Mhm.
can be divided.
Which would mean
That's infinite.
yes. So what we're looking for then in our answer would be something that would say that time can be infinitely divided too, right?
Hmm.
So that's what we're going to be looking for, because what you'll see in the choices would be things like either saying that distance is finite and time is finite, or distance is infinite and time is infinite. So for instance, A, what does A say?
Distance is finite.
Mm-hmm. And we know that we're not saying that, or we know that Aristotle isn't saying that it's not infinite. He's saying that time is infinite too, right? So we can eliminate A because motion does or can involve an infinite number of tasks, right?
Hmm.
So we can say that that's wrong, and I guess we could say it's wrong for the reason of contradiction. So now let's look at B.
Time does not actually pass between two moments. I mean, he's saying time is infinite,
Mhm.
so it is passing.
Okay.
So it's wrong.
Okay.
There actually is enough time to cross the distances implied by movement. Um, could be right.
Okay. And then D.
And time and space are inextricably linked. Um, hmm. I mean, he's just saying time is infinite,
Mhm.
so I'll be wrong.
Yep. So yeah, so basically, yeah, uh, C would say that there's also like time could also be infinite, right? And so that should be our answer. Now, do you think it helped us? Or did you think it was helpful like when I blocked it out and we were kind of thinking of what to look for?
Hmm.
Okay. Because yeah, a lot of times that can help. Because it'll make us less susceptible to some of the wrong answers. But yeah, I think it'll be C.
The thing is, sometimes I just feel like
Mhm.
this is not a good quality, of course. I'm just impatient. And when you're under the time crunch, you're just like, oh, I need to see the answer. I need to see the answers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, like,
It's
sometimes I stop and think, but other times I just go straight to the answer.
yeah, yeah. It's tough. Um, the time crunch is stuff. Sorry, it's tough, but but you want to do the measure twice, cut once kind of thing. It's very like it's counterintuitive and stuff, but if you do it right the first time, then it gets easier to kind of like move forward from there. Like because you're putting in it's like you're investing a certain amount of time. Uh, you don't want to think of it as I'm spending too much time or I'm wasting too much time. You want to think of it as I'm investing a certain amount of time to understand the passage so well that I can, do well on it without having to go back and forth, essentially.
Hmm.
But yep, good job.
On the basis of the passage, a comparison between Zeno and Aristotle might reasonably lead to the conclusion that um, I mean, I know the author said Aristotle was proving Zeno wrong.
Okay.
Um,
And then where does Parmenides come in?
Parmenides sided with Zeno.
Good.
So something against Aristotle going against those two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Aristotle, unlike Zeno, would agree with Parmenides. It's wrong.
Yep. Contradicted by the passage. Good.
Aristotle would not share Zeno's opinion on Parmenides. Could be right.
Okay.
Both Aristotle and Zeno believe philosophy should be able to explain motion. Um, I don't know if the passage like fully spoke about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, might be like too out of scope. I don't know.
So yeah, OOS could mean out of scope. Um, but I would also maybe not like C because I don't want to choose an answer where Aristotle and Zeno have anything in common.
Mhm. Zeno is generally more skeptical of philosophy than is Aristotle. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about like motion time and stuff, not exactly philosophy. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another
B.
thing that I guess he has as well. Yeah, they're not really talking about their positions on what philosophy is, right?
Hmm. Okay. The point that Aristotle makes in the last paragraph is most analogous to. Yeah, I mean, how you can just run the entire distance. Um, you don't have to make those marks. I mean, I'm literally reading what you wrote, but yeah, I mean, you just have to view things as a whole.
Okay.
The belief that a computer can hold a library's worth of books. Probably not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
'Cause it's comparing like one thing to another thing, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like one thing and the way it holds a
Yep.
value, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that a straight line is the shortest path between 2 points. Um, I don't think so.
Okay.
The dude that a phone charged to 100% is also charged 75%. Um, Probably maybe because saying like a 10 miles is 6 miles like part of that or something. Um, and the claim that GED is equivalent to high school diploma. They're comparing two different things. Again, like not just one value and the way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, C.
Because yeah, you don't have to go and say like, okay, it's 75% now, and then you wait for 100%. You could just go and charge it to 100%, just like you can walk the entire mile.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Which of the following points in the argument is supported by a concrete example? Okay. Not all of Zeno's arguments to defend Parmenides. Um, I don't even know like what they're. I mean, no, I don't think that's the right answer.
Oh yeah, so this is a type of so like a common question type where they ask you about the support, and I didn't include like the examples in my map. Uh, which in hindsight maybe I should have, but I'm letting you see the passage now because the examples would be in orange, so that
Mm,
you know where to look.
yeah.
But yeah, that's why you always want to be aware of not just what the argument is and not just who's making the argument, but what support, if any.
Hmm. Um, I mean, it's talking about Zeno argument.
Mhm,
Aristotle was also supported.
mhm.
So not all Zeno arguments defend. Well, that's just wrong. It's just
Hmm.
not talking about that. Despite appearances to the contrary, motion is impossible. It's probably too what's it's like too much. What is it called?
You might be thinking,
It's very strong. Extreme.
now there's a caveat to that because if someone's view is actually extreme, right?
Hmm.
Like Zeno, his view is extreme. So if someone's view is extreme, because Zeno's not saying that motion is not 100% possible. Zeno's saying it's 0% possible. Right?
Mm,
So yeah, so it's good that you are thinking of extreme words, but the caveat to that is if there's someone with an extreme view, then you know the extreme word would be fine.
right. Okay. So yeah, I mean you're implying B is correct, but let's just go through it. Something can be divided into nothing. So why would this be wrong? Something can be divided into nothing. Um, so I guess the reason it's wrong is because he's saying it's being divided into nothing, but he's just saying it's infinite. Well, Zeno, he was saying it was infinite. So that is something, right? Is that why this is wrong?
Uh, well, we're looking for is there anywhere in the passage you're looking for that choice? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. Right. So I mean that it's not really supportive. Um, because he's saying that it's infinite.
okay.
Like the example.
Hmm.
All things are ultimately part of a single unified thing. Um, well, I was actually something from the very beginning, right? So, um,
Yep. That was in paragraph one, and we don't have any examples in paragraph one, uh,
yeah,
which I would have made orange. So there's no examples for paragraph one, so D shouldn't be it. Um, A is also like partially talked about in paragraph one, even though it's not talking about the rest of Zeno's arguments. But again, we don't have any evidence in paragraph one, so that can't be it either. And then something can be divided into nothing. Um, I think that is talked about here, right? Right?
uh-huh.
Now, I'm gonna bet that a lot of people will have chosen C.
I chose C,
Now,
like
do
when I
you
did this.
you see why?
Yeah,
Why?
so it's written there. It's from they're putting what's in the passage
Yep.
into a multiple choice. So
You
when
see,
they're the time crunch, yeah.
yeah. When people do the time crunch, they zoom through this, and play mix and match, right?
Yeah.
That's how they make the trap answers. So you want to be, that's why I want you to be able to put things in your own words, and B, to minimize rereading the passage. But this also shows, like, if you again, time constraint, right? So that is going to make it hard to do things slowly. So, but if you read too fast and you don't get that understanding and you have to go back anyway, it's going to be taking more time, right?
Yeah. But one of my biggest issues too, and I'm sure many students come to you ask saying this is like, I mean, a lot of the time, right, these passages, like I'm just not interested in what they're telling me. And like I try to be like some of them are actually interesting, but others are like, it's so abstract and like I get lost. Like I'm reading and it's just like I'm not even like actually processing what I'm reading. I'm just reading.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finish the paragraph and I'm like, wait, so what did I just read? And then you use that time to read again and
Yeah. That's why, yeah. So that's why I had you go. By the way, like, so yeah, I had you go sentence by sentence, and when and sometimes you were like, oh, like you kind of stopped at like a comma, and you're like, oh, I didn't go and say the rest of the sentence. I didn't say it, but that's what I want you to do, because a lot of times you're gonna have really verbose sentences that have tons of commas in it. And I think the best way to analyze that is like up to the first comma, let's say the first third, and then the second third, and the third third. But you essentially want to be making sense of things as you go through it, like as you read forward. You don't want to, just like you don't want to like zoom through the passage and whatever, you don't want to zoom through the paragraph and at the end of the paragraph be like, okay, what did I just read? Because then you'll have to reread it, right? You want to, as you read, be like kind of trying to understand what they're saying, like as you go, like word from word. Yeah. So um so yeah, I would just say to like like, just go slowly and kind of like make sense of what you're reading as you read it, like word, like per word.
yeah.
um and then when you do this, like for practice, when you think about, okay, what am I going to write in the map for paragraph 1 or paragraph 2, that can also help with, you know that type of organization of thoughts. um but yeah, so you
So
know
you're saying when I do practice, I should do these maps.
yeah, yeah, because you are going to, like, in the creation of the map, like in the process of creating the map, you organize your thoughts, right? It's like when I was writing down like the stuff in the map, it's like, okay, what did we talk about? And that's where, I look at, okay, the stuff, that we said, and then we write it down in our map. So if you imagine that, but without the actual writing down part, which is, as you practice, you're going to internalize the organization that comes before writing it down, such that when you get to the point when you're going to take the test, you've already internalized that organization in your head. And so you may not need to write it all down, because you'll see, like with practice, like for example, like when I'm reading a passage like this, I would write like P1, some stuff, and as I write it, like kind of as I'm like 3 words in, I already have it organized into my head, and I may not continue writing it, and I'll move on. It's kind of something like that. It's like you'll if you practice this enough times, you're gonna internalize it, and the mere like writing down of like just a few words like you'll kind of finish organizing it in your head, so you may not need to write the entire thing down. I would say at least be able to get a main idea, um, for the for the passages. Oh, and by the way, like, so this question isn't like this choice isn't wrong. Like, it's not wrong because it was listed here, right? It's wrong because there's no support
Yeah.
or example for that, right? But yeah, you do see that you want to be careful about when they have something verbatim.
Okay. I mean, I see we're over time, so
Yeah, yeah. And like, your
um,
your test, like, um in September, like by that point, we will have done a lot of stuff. Like you'll
okay.
have more than enough practice, by the time we get to that point. But yeah, yeah, should be B. And again, this is the first time, you're learning this type of method, so you know, you're only gonna get better from here.
Yeah, I just feel like if I'm gonna write it, I mean, once again, that's why practice is a thing, but like, if I spend time writing it, I'm gonna like spend so much time because like I guess as I said, you get better with the practice, yeah.
Oh
So
yeah. And also that's why I have you just screenshot the highlights, because I mean
yeah,
it's hard to teach highlighting, but you can kind of see that the highlight is functionally like a pseudo map. Like if you read the caveman speech things, like here in this entire paragraph, I wrote, however, Aristotle, Zeno wrong, first time divided space, and then example mile, and then Zeno aware, hard evidence. In my head, I'm filling in the blanks. Zeno may have been aware, but it's hard to find evidence of this. And then, whatever. Author's opinion, Aristotle is the one who's right. So, you know, uh, when you learn to kind of highlight in this way, it can also function as a map as well.
I highlight after I finish a paragraph or while I'm reading it.
Hmm. Yeah. So, uh, I was kind of doing it as we were reading it, as well. And, you know, in the future, I'm going to ask you more like, okay, what would you highlight and stuff like that. But, after our sessions, I just want you to kind of see what we highlight and what we wrote in the map and, you know, kind of like learn from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Assume that someone told Zeno that motion obviously exists because people walk a mile's worth of distance all the time. Zeno would probably say that. Okay, motion. So Zeno said that motion does not exist. Um, because you have to pass infinitely, infinite amount, infinite time. Um, so maybe something. mm, yeah, I don't know.
So let's go through each of the choices. And another thing, cars rarely will the right answer really seem right. It's more so that the right answer is the least wrong. So for this
Yeah.
question, I don't personally see anything that stands out to me as the answer. So, but that's okay, because what we're really just looking for is the one that's least wrong.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then I would go like, I would like first evaluate A and then evaluate B, things like that. And again, on practice tests and things like that with time crunch, I don't expect you to do that, for each of the choices, but as we practice, it's good to do that. Yeah.
Okay. A, you should be able to explain something that exists. Um, what are you saying? Hmm,
You could do a standby and then evaluate B.
yeah. People make mistaken observations all the time. Um, I'd probably say this is not right.
All right.
Um, Motion is too complicated. Most people don't understand. I would say this is wrong.
Okay.
One cannot prove that most things exist. Um, so I mean, it'd be between A and D. Um, I probably would say it's A.
Mhm.
I mean, would D like Zeno use an example to prove that um, distance is infinite?
So tricky,
Or, I
but
mean, so there's no motion.
mhm. Yeah. So yeah, this is a perfect example of like we need to find the one that's least wrong. And when I see D, it says one cannot prove that most things exist, but if we're talking to Zeno about motion, and Zeno wrote extensively about motion, and I'm just imagining telling him, "Hey, motion exists," because people walk all the time. I don't think Zeno would say that one cannot prove that most things exist, because why would Zeno talk about most things when we're talking about motion? Like
Yeah.
we're talking about one thing. So A would be the least wrong. So, and then I guess A would make sense also because Zeno's entire argument is about explaining something, right? Like where Zeno's not saying that motion doesn't exist because of experimental evidence. Zeno's saying motion doesn't exist because he can't explain how it can exist, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing here stands out to me as particularly right, but the best we can do, which should be enough, is something that's the least wrong. Because B, C, and D are just more wrong than A is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Zeno's claim regarding the impossibility of motion is based mainly on um, A, how logical common sense can be. I don't think so. B, a trick of mathematics. I mean, yeah, he was saying it was like you'd half it every time, so maybe. The idea that things can be separate from each other. Um, is that contradictory?
Which one?
C.
Oh, so there's okay, so let me so there's overall two types of questions. One type is a main idea question, and we define main ideas as arguments in more than one paragraph. So main idea questions will have arguments that, or will have things that are in more than one paragraph. Now, the other type of question is called a structure question, and that's a type of question where the answer or it's referring to just one paragraph. Now, if something is in a different, like if a main idea question has some choice that's just in one paragraph, or if a structure question that asks about a certain paragraph has choices that are in different paragraphs, one of the reasons that we can eliminate choices could be something called localization. So here, this question is regarding motion, which is a main idea because it's in more than one paragraph. But A, where they talk about common sense, is that in more than one paragraph?
No, it's in one.
Good. So A is wrong due to localization because it's localized to a single paragraph, which happens to be a paragraph that does not mention anything about motion, right?
Yeah.
Now, anything else that we see here that could be a localization error?
C.
Yep. Things can be separate to each other, also in the first paragraph, but we never talked about it again.
Yeah.
So A and C we can eliminate for localization.
D, it's like I don't know. I didn't really talk about human lives, so like,
Out of
yeah,
scope.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think you were able to have a good idea of B being it, but when I looked at it, I didn't see it completely coming like jumping out at me. But then if you do the thing where, the right answer is just the one that's least wrong also means that the other choices are more wrong. So I know C and A are definitely wrong, and I know D is definitely wrong, and yep, that's the only one that's left. So
Okay.
yeah, how do you feel about how we went about that?
That's good. Solid.
Okay.
It's supposed to be 100%. There's another passage. Um, okay. I mean, do you like I just for me, the main thing is like this is like a very negative, pessimistic view on cars. But I don't know, from talking to like other friends and people who have already went through this exam, I've like understood like some people tell me that cars is either like a muscle that you have from the get-go or it's just like or not. Like I had a friend who took the Mcat. It was tougher in the beginning, and she ended up improving on all sections. But she was like, "Cars, I just never improved on." Like your view of tutoring students, you think like it is possible, obviously, right? Like
Yeah.
to improve,
There's no use in that belief anyway.
right? I know, yeah,
But if you looked at like MCAT percentiles, you would see that the lowest that cars is the section with that lowest mean score, right? Have you ever seen that?
no, I have not actually.
Here. So CP mean score is 124.9, and we can see the largest bar is 124. Psych Soc mean score 125.6, but we see the largest bar here at 127 here. BB, mean score 125.2, and we see the high, we see the largest bar at 126 here. Cars 124.6, which is lower than all of them. And the bar, the largest bar, I guess it's similar to CP a bit, but it's at 124. So this definitively shows that cars is the lowest scoring section for pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
So, you're not alone in that cars is very hard. And but that's, I would say, like probably like 80% due to the fact that most people who take the MCAT don't spend that much time on cars, because a lot of times, the idea is like, okay, because like I know you did really well on your like ACT, and that like critical reading sections are like in every test, like ACT, SAT, GRE, GMAT, LSAT, everything. But cars is very different from all those other types of critical reading sections, because it's not those types of, the other tests ask a lot of like retrieval questions, like what was said in this paragraph, what was said, about this, where you kind of are being tested on what, on like kind of your comprehension, I guess. But a MCAT cars is so much like reasoning beyond the text. So it's a lot of well, first of all, you need to know what to look for, which are arguments, and you need to look for and be able to apply that argument or apply new information to a certain argument or weaken it, all sorts of stuff. So cars is just very different, and most people who take the MCAT, they don't spend, not only do they not spend enough time on cars, they view cars as the same as all those other critical reading sections, but it's something different. But now that you have an understanding of what they're looking for in cars, and how if you can come out of a cars passage with an understanding of the main idea, you're good. You can pretty much like do well from there. And that can only come from reading slowly. And again, I know there's this constant, kind of, like or like what's the magic, number or whatever to be
Yeah.
reading at a pace that's fast enough for you to answer the questions and do it on a, timed, and then what's like, too fast or too much of a rush. And that's hard to answer right away, but the idea is that the idea is measure twice, cut once. You want to understand the passage so well that you don't need to go back to it. And, and that means it's going to take longer. But the alternative would be if you go through it too fast and then you have to constantly go back to it, that takes time too. So, but yeah, I guess to really answer your question, it's not something that you can either do or not do. And it's something that people just don't practice as much. So if you just practice it, you'll do well on it, basically.
And the last question is, I mean, do you think I should like how do you go about analyzing your mistakes in cars? Like
Oh yeah.
I just
So one of the things that will help us would be like writing down like your map when you go over a passage, and then if it's a passage that you want to go over, like for the passage that we just went over today, like the next time you do it, you'll do a map. So when we go over it, we can write a map and we can compare it to what you wrote in your map. Or we can see like what we can highlight for the pseudo map and see how that compares to what you highlighted. And yeah, we'll essentially be able to tell based on what you write like what's the main idea, what's the main idea that you get, and that helps for the Jack Weston passages too because they tell you the main idea, right?
Yeah.
The answer, it's like 3 4 words or whatever, that's the main idea. So as you practice doing your cars material, uh and you do the map and stuff, or at the very least, try to think about and write down what the main idea is. um you can then check the Jack Weston, answer or whatever, where it'll tell you what the main idea is. If you're getting the same main idea as that, then that's good. If you're not, then that's, means that there's work to do. Um, and then from there, it's like, yeah, it'll be like answering the questions and, you know, I think yeah. So I think like moving forward, just, do the passages, do the AMC or whatever, AMC, Jack Weston, whichever ones you want to do. Do it the way that we did today with either highlighting in certain ways or writing a map. But you want to come out of a passage with a main idea. So if you don't want to do the map, at least come out with like when you finish the passage, like spend like 15 seconds maybe to like think, okay, what's the main idea here? And
Yeah.
what that means is, what argument is mentioned more than once. And then yeah, then essentially we can go from there. We can see, what your main idea is and then what the actual one is, and that way you'll have a direct comparison. So
Okay.
yeah. When
All
you
right.
read that, so when you first read that passage that we just went over today, what was your main idea? Like or what was your kind of takeaway?
It was a while ago, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I remember I got 0 out of 6 on that. I've never like gotten that. That was like the
Yeah.
most humbling thing ever.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what I wanted to go over today. But I remember I didn't come out of it saying the
Yeah.
author sides with Aristotle. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So
and for some of those questions you saw, like at least one of them that you chose the one that was verbatim from the passage.
yes.
So, so now like moving forward, what to do for cars. You want to come out with that main idea, and you want to, yeah. So I think that now, so like if you came out of that passage for, like first without that, now you know what to come out of the passage with, and all you need to do is just apply it to the stuff that you do now. You should probably see like a boost, like a big score boost.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
So yeah, I think that you're going to do a lot better now just if you incorporate that strategy into your car's work.
right. Okay.
So, all right, when do you want to meet next?
What is your availability on Wednesday?
Wednesday, I am free earlier, like 1 p.m.
I don't think it's gonna work. I was thinking anytime after 2. Um,
Let's see. I mean, so I have someone at from 3 to 8.
wow. Okay.
And I generally work like 1 or noon to 8. So
Mm,
I have someone later in the day for that. I mean, like, in the future, like the weeks after, I could put you in and stuff for an earlier day or a later time. But let's see. I could also do Thursday the 27th after 4:30. Like if you wanted to meet at 5 Eastern for Thursday the 27th.
yeah,
That
could
would
do
work.
that. Yeah, from 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I put you in for Thursday the 27th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and by that point, I think you will have taken a wait, maybe not. Okay, nothing. Oh, cool. Oh, you put in the hours and stuff too,
Yeah.
spreadsheet. So yeah, I guess like I would just have to turn them into like just like a one numerical value. Um, but that's fine. I could do that for you. But yeah, okay, yeah. So I guess like between now and then you'll be doing AMC section bank stuff and AMC or I guess Jack Weston cars you could do as well. Right.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
yeah,
mhm.
what were you gonna say?
There's a chance I'll probably think it over, but like I might email you to also see if we can meet one more hour next week for cars as well.
Mm-hmm.
What availability do you have for now on Tuesday?
On the Tuesday I have yeah like 1 p.m. I mean I have someone at from 2 to 6:30. So I could do 7 p.m. Eastern as well as if it's 1 p.m. then it's like 1 hour. Well, I guess like 7 would also be like 1 hour, but yeah, I either one of those. 1 p.m. or 7 p.m. on Tuesday.
Okay. I'll let you know then about that. But if I do it, it'll be 1 p.m.
Mhm.
I will let you know.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And are you gonna do like a test between now and then? No, right?
No, I'm just gonna be section banks. Friday's my second full length.
Got it. I understand. So yeah, okay. All right, awesome. So yeah, I would just say to use what we learned today moving forward. Don't think about it in that way of whatever you're either good at it or you're not, um, because anyone can do well on it, and I think that's what'll happen. You'll probably see your score improve like right away.
Okay. So thank you so much, Shane.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. And what is the total
Oh yeah. Let me see.
after the calculations?
132.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So yeah, so okay, you'll send that in and good luck. And
Hmm.
I will definitely see you the on Thursday the 27th and possibly
Yeah.
Tuesday the 25th. Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good
Yeah.
weekend. All right. Take care.
All right.